Large-scale online meeting of netizens. After a phone call, Shu finally met bald little baby Phil Coulson. Indeed very bald. I've taken the person away. I'll transfer the reward to you later. Soon, the 3 shadow demon disciples in the garage were taken away by Phil Coulson's team. As for the reward mentioned by Phil Coulson, that's not important, just find a reason to give some money. After all, besides gaming, Shu's other big hobby, according to the information provided by S.H.I.E.L.D., is money. To please the target, cater to their preferences, nothing embarrassing. However, when Phil Coulson turned around, he found that in the short time he was capturing people, Shu had already joined forces with his female hacker, Sky. The two of them were chatting enthusiastically, and even exchanged phone numbers. Phil Coulson looked at this scene in confusion. He had spent 3 days and nights playing games with the target just to become somewhat familiar. But then Sky came over, in just 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes, the two of them were already so close. Feeling disheartened, Phil Coulson quickly led his team away from the scene. On the way, as he watched Sky holding her phone and occasionally giggling, Phil Coulson couldn't help himself. Sky, what were you talking about just now? Sky, who snapped back to reality, quickly hid her phone behind her. It's nothing, just talking about some hometown stuff. Boss, you know I'm Asian. After speaking, Sky noticed the skeptical looks from everyone and added. We wanted to recruit him, right? I was. Deliberately getting close to him, yes, deliberately. Watching Sky hastily explain, her face slightly blushing, Phil Coulson fell silent. He seemed to understand why Nick Fury didn't allow the use of seduction tactics. He hadn't even had much contact yet, and one of his team members was already being charmed away. Damn it. Thinking of this, even the mild-mannered Phil Coulson couldn't help but curse inwardly. Now he finally understood what it meant to lose both the wife and the soldiers. On the other side, Shu looked at the last message Sky sent on his phone. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If I don't poach your people, it's already good enough. You still want to recruit me? His interaction with Sky wasn't as complicated as Phil Coulson had imagined. It was simply meeting an acquaintance in a foreign land, seeing fellow countrymen, plus a little favorability due to his strong abilities. Definitely, this also had something to do with Sky's lack of a sense of belonging since she had just joined S.H.I.E.L.D. Turning around, looking at the sky that was already turning pale. Dawn was approaching. Shu had no intention of going back to sleep. After all, with his current strength, even if he didn't sleep for a month, it wouldn't have any impact. And after experiencing this attack, Shu no longer had the intention to continue ranking up. Definitely, mainly because Phil Coulson wasn't online, and without someone to be the dog, he alone might not be able to defeat the opponents. Oh, right. Did that Daniel magician ask me to go to the holy place in New York? Shu slapped his thigh. He had been too focused on ranking up that he had forgotten about the invitation to the Asgardian holy place. It shouldn't be anything important, right? Although he said that. Shu quickly opened a portal, transporting himself to 177A Bleecker Street, where the holy place in New York was located. In front of him was an ordinary building, except for a window on the roof that had the exact same structure as the Eye of Agamotto. Others. There is almost no difference from the surrounding buildings. Truly achieving a state of being hidden from the world. Pushing open the door. Inside the holy place in New York, there is another world. Due to spatial magic, the interior space of the holy place in New York is about 4 times larger than what can be seen from the outside. Incredibly vast. Like a museum. Inside, there are all kinds of magical tools and artifacts. Is anyone here? Shu shouted. Immediately, echoes reverberated from the surroundings. But after a long time, there was no response from anyone else. No one? Shu wondered, so he began to wander around inside the holy place. I remember in the movies, magical tools choose their own masters. Looking through the glass, Shu began to observe the various magical tools inside the holy place. Since he's already here, he can't leave empty-handed, right? Soon, Shu discovered many magical tools that appeared in movies. For example, Doctor Strange's Cloak of Levitation, the Cosmic Cauldron, from Avengers Alliance 3, and the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, that trapped Caecilius. But these are not what Shu wants. What he wants is something like a storage space magical tool, similar to the storage bag in fantasy novels, that can store items. Otherwise, many things cannot be taken away. Like the battle sword he snatched from Belast. Shu can only leave it at home, after all, a 2-meter-long sword can't be carried around all day long, right? As for the other magical tools, the cloak of levitation does pique Shu's interest a bit. But the problem is that this thing has no reaction to Shu's arrival. It's not already bound to strange, is it? Looking at the red cloak in the glass cabinet. Just as Shu was thinking about whether he should forcefully unbind it and take it by force. This cloak already has its own master. If you want, I can find another cloak for you. A voice suddenly came from behind. Boss, can you stop appearing from behind every time? It's really scary, you know? Shu turned around. The person who came was the Ancient One. Sorry, I'll pay attention next time. Ancient One nodded. But judging from her indifferent appearance, it seems that she will still do it next time. Daniel the magician asked me to come. Where is he? Shu helplessly explained his purpose. Daniel the magician is seriously injured and is currently recuperating in Kamar Taj. And from what I know, he invited you a few days ago. Why did you come today? Ancient One looked at Shu with a serious expression. Shu was at a loss for words. He can't possibly say that he forgot because he was playing games, right? The holy place has been without an Asgardian for 3 days, which is very dangerous. Ancient One said while leading Shu into the interior of the holy place in New York. Superheroes like the Avengers protect the world from substantial threats, while we magicians protect the world from magical invasions. In ancient times, the first Sorcerer Supreme, Agamotto, built the 3 holy places, New York, Hong Kong, and London. These 3 holy places form the protective network of our present world, protecting reality from invasions of other dimensional dimensions. Ancient One walked and narrated the mission of the magicians. I have told you before, the barriers between dimensions are very strong. Crossing dimensions is not an easy task. That's why I was curious in the beginning, why an ordinary person like you could cross over. Because crossing dimensions is not easy. Ancient One emphasized this point again. I know that time travel is not easy, so what's next? Shu was confused by the Ancient One's words. He also knew that time travel was not easy, otherwise he would have found a way to travel back to his original world long ago. Marvel is too dangerous. I want to go back to my hometown. This time, Belast and his army of demons have broken this rule. The Ancient One's expression was serious. She had not ignored this demon invasion. On the contrary, the Ancient One was more concerned than anyone else. Because others only cared about the demon invasion. But what she was concerned about was the change between the 2 dimensions. Are you saying, Belast shouldn't have come to Earth? Shu acts in confusion. No, what I mean is, they shouldn't have come to Earth so easily. The Ancient One waved her hand. Golden magical energy formed a holographic projection in front of her. It was a scene of the demons building dimensional channels in the spirit-thin prison. This channel can only accommodate the arrival of Belast and a few elite soldiers. And after they arrive on Earth, they will also be suppressed by dimensional power and unable to exert their full strength. But now, the Ancient One waved her hand again. The scene changed to the demons wreaking havoc on the streets of New York. Not only have they all come to Earth, but their strength has hardly been suppressed. The main reason for all of this, as you, me. Shu widened his eyes. It seemed like the Ancient One was saying, it's because of you that the demons were attracted? What did I do? Shu looked puzzled. As a handsome young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, he didn't look like someone who would lead the way, right? Did you summon quarks? The Ancient One didn't immediately answer Shu's question. Instead, she suddenly asked a question. I guess you could say I summoned them once. But it wasn't successful. Shu recalled the experience of almost summoning the Dimension Lord with a single sentence, and shook his head. That's good. Upon hearing this answer, the Ancient One seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and began to explain. What allowed Belast and his army to easily come to Earth is the demonic power within you. Although I'm not sure how you did it, these energies became extremely pure when they entered your body, as if they had been refined. Refined? Upon hearing the word, refined, from the Ancient One, Shu immediately thought of the purification process that the system would perform every time he gained power. This purification process would remove the soul imprint of the original owner from these energies, making the energy cleaner, purer, and more powerful. It seems you already know why. Don't worry, I won't ask. Everyone has their own secrets. The Ancient One shook her head slightly and continued. The pure energy within you can almost be regarded as the primal force of a world. With this power in your hands, you naturally become a bridge between two worlds. Like a beacon, or a lighthouse in the vast sea. The Ancient One's expression was serious. Similar things had never happened before. No one knew what the final outcome would be. What if I can banish them every time? Shu acts. The demon banishing system is unreasonable. If the demons come, he can just banish them. It's just a matter of drawing a banishing pattern with ease. Have you ever thought about? Note. The translation provided is a faithful translation of the Chinese text. However, without further context, it is difficult to fully understand the nuances and implications of certain phrases and sentences. If one day, the barrier between two dimensions completely disappears? As you gain more and more power, the connection between the two worlds will become stronger, and the barrier between dimensions will become increasingly fragile. In the end, when the two worlds integrate into one world, will you still be able to banish them? The words of the Ancient One were like a thunderclap in Shu's ears. System. If demons become native creatures, are they still considered evil spirits? Shu quickly asked in his mind. No, the system's answer was very direct. Only life and non-living beings from different dimensional worlds are considered evil spirits. Local beings in the same world as Shu, such as Thanos, would not be judged as evil spirits and therefore cannot be banished. After all, the meaning of banishment is to send someone back to their original place. Once the other party becomes a local, where can you banish them to? Wait. It seems that I now have more than just demonic power. Shu's face changed, and the image of the shadow demon Sarko appeared in his mind. Well, that's your business. I believe that after knowing this, you will have a sense of measure in your future actions. After a series of terrifying threats, the Ancient One finally regained her original calm and relaxed demeanor. Looking at Shu's serious expression, a faint smile appeared at the corner of the Ancient One's mouth. Haha, thought I couldn't scare you. Alright, you don't need to worry too much. Now, the situation I mentioned is still far away, and you still have time to react. The Ancient One opened a door. Inside was the core area of the holy place in New York. In the room, there was a huge sphere similar to a globe, covered with magical patterns and many densely packed golden dots. And these dots were constantly changing. This is the core of the holy place left by Agamotto. Through it, you can have real-time knowledge of any abnormal fluctuations on Earth. Once a dimensional invasion occurs, you can foresee it in advance and have enough time to react. Listening to the Ancient One's introduction, Shu couldn't help but take another look at this huge sphere. Indeed, it's a good thing. From now on, you will be an Asgardian of the holy place in New York. Ah. Shu was stunned. So you've been waiting for me here. Don't be nervous, it's just temporary. After Daniel the magician recovers, you can decide whether or not to stay. As if afraid that Shu would refuse, the Ancient One quickly cast a spell and brought out a tattered black cloak from somewhere. Here, the cloak I promised you earlier. Looking at the tattered cloth-like cloak in the Ancient One's hand, Shu was about to refuse, but the cloak suddenly flew up and landed on his back on its own. The next second, a large amount of evil dark energy suddenly emerged from the tattered parts of the cloak. Not only did it repair the damaged parts, but it also spread like black tentacles. Extending from the ends, the thick aura of evil quickly filled the entire room. Shu, wearing the cloak, instantly transformed. From appearance to aura, he became a villainous demon king. Intimidating to behold. What is this? What is it? Looking at his own image of a great demon king, Shu couldn't help but comment. His current appearance can easily rival the image of the Dark Doctor Strange from the parallel world in the movie, Doctor Strange 2. If you sit in front of Satan, even Satan would have to hand you a cigarette. A perfect villain. No, this thing ruins my image too much. Just as Shu finished speaking, everything strange about the cloak instantly disappeared. Everything that just happened seemed like an illusion, and the evil energy and black tentacles were all gone. But the cloak was completely renewed. The damaged parts were automatically repaired. After the repair, the overall appearance was extremely similar to the levitating cloak of Strange. Only the color was black. This is the dark cloak of the great demon Shadow. You may think it looks similar to the levitating cloak, but it's actually the other way around. The levitating cloak was made based on it. The Ancient One slowly introduced the cloak, her eyes filled with seriousness. Because there was something she didn't mention. That is, the previous owner of this cloak had a slightly special identity. In general, the previous owner of this cloak is often referred to as the god of black magic. What's the use of this thing? Besides making me look more like a bad guy. Shu Shu disdainfully tugged at the cloak. Wearing this thing in a fight, it might even become a hindrance. For example, the enemy could grab the cloak and swing him around. You can explore its functions yourself. In short, it has all the functions that the levitating cloak has, and even the functions that the levitating cloak doesn't have. After the Ancient One finished speaking, she looked at Shu Shu, who still seemed unsatisfied. She couldn't help but sigh. This kid, he won't take action until he sees a rabbit. He's complaining that I didn't give him enough benefits. I think I need to consider this job at the holy place in New York, Asgardian. Sure enough, the Ancient One didn't say anything. She just smiled, remained silent, and slowly took out a belt. Just when Shu Shu thought the Ancient One was going to turn against him, the Ancient One handed him the belt, the Seimonoto space belt. This artifact has an internal independent space that can be used to store objects. In addition, it also has teleportation magic. With it, you can open a portal anytime without needing a sling ring. Before the Ancient One finished introducing it, Shu Shu quickly took the belt and fastened it around his waist. Guardian of the reality dimension, it is my duty. Elder, you can rest assured that I will take care of the holy place in New York. Shu Shu guaranteed while patting his chest. Ancient One didn't say much about Shu Shu's guarantee. After handing over the key to the holy place in New York, she turned and left. Let's go for a walk. In the blink of an eye, it became the holy place Asgardian. Looking at the ancient key in his hand, Shu Shu felt a sense of da copyright yavu. He didn't have any objections to this appointment. On one hand, the Ancient One had given him too much, and on the other hand, the matter of the dimensional barrier had indeed reminded Shu Shu. The system is not almighty, the system is indeed unreasonable. Once judged as a demon, no matter how strong you are, you will be expelled. But whether it was Balast's betrayal or the Ancient One's reminder, it has been confirmed that relying solely on the system is not enough. To forge iron, one must be strong. After all, the system only expels and drives people away, without providing a permanent solution to the problem. In the end, it's still a matter of strength. In the face of things like the Yaishan Father, Heavenly Father, and even Dimensional Lords. Without strength, there is no right to speak. Shu Shu still remembers Balast's words, killing you, your soul is still mine. This is the direct consequence of being overwhelmed by strength. They don't even negotiate with you. Want to trade? Not to mention being on equal footing. At the very least, you can't approach these big shots as a mere ant. Otherwise, it will become Strange's way of negotiation. Shu Shu couldn't help but think of the negotiation between Strange and Dormammu in the movie. That wasn't negotiation at all. It was simply Dormammu getting tired of killing, tired of it, and not wanting to play with you anymore. Otherwise, Strange wouldn't know how many times he would have died. But fortunately, I'm different from Strange. At least Dormammu can't kill me. Shu Shu touched his pocket. Since the last time he almost summoned Quagsire, Shu Shu has prepared a stack of cards. Each one has a well-drawn exorcism ritual. From the Lord of Hell to the Dimensional Mephisto, everything is available. Now I just need to take it step by step, not do anything stupid, and not provoke those ultimate big shots in advance. Then there shouldn't be any major problems. Shu Shu now understands what the Ancient One said about the dimensional barrier, integrating two worlds, and so on. Most likely, it was all a bluff, if things were really as serious as she said. This bald lady wouldn't have left so casually. It's possible that this whole thing, just to deceive me into becoming the Asgardian of the New York holy place. Shu Shu touched his chin. If he remembered correctly, in the movie, the first place Caecilius attacked seemed to be the New York holy place. And Shu Shu looked at the stairs beneath his feet. The previous Asgardian of the holy place, Daniel Magician, seemed to have received his lunchbox in this position. Damn. A kind of plant. Shu Shu, who had figured it out, looked at the hall filled with magical props around him. A thought came to mind. Now that the Ancient One has given me the position of the Asgardian of the holy place, then these magical artifacts here. Shu Shu's eyes lit up. The first thing he set his sights on were the 3 arbitrary doors that appeared in the movie. Opening them would allow him to travel to any place on Earth. Although teleportation magic can also achieve this, the visual effect is clearly not as good as the arbitrary doors. After all, this thing can see the scenery on the other side before opening the door. Let's bring one back home first. That way, I can travel between two places. Shu Shu made up his mind, picked up one of the arbitrary doors, and wiped his waist with his other hand. A bright light flashed. The entire door was absorbed into the space belt of Simontos. It's great to have storage items, at the same time. While Shu Shu was happily emptying the New York holy place. In Phil Coulson's special operations team, Grandwater quietly left the team. He made a phone call in a hidden place. I have something important to report. This may affect the success or failure of our great plan. Soon, the call was successfully transferred. Speak. A calm and authoritative voice sounded. Concise and to the point, as if saying one more word would bring trouble. Sir, Phil Coulson made contact with the target today and brought back 3 individuals. These 3 individuals possess the same super ability as the target, shadow manipulation. Agent Grandwater reported in detail about what happened today. Get to the point? The voice on the other end seemed to realize something. There was a hint of anticipation in the voice. Sir, I believe this ability can be replicated. Agent Grandwater's statement was astonishing, and he continued, through interrogation, I learned that their ability is obtained through a blood-drawn totem, summoning a being called the Shadow God, thus gaining the super ability. After listening to Agent Grandwater's report, there was silence on the other end of the phone for a while. Then, the voice became somewhat excited. Are you sure? And, are you sure that guy named Shu Shu also obtained the super ability through this method? Most likely. We found an identical blood totem in a warehouse in Jefferson Port. The target should have obtained the ability there. And I speculate that the strength of the obtained ability is likely related to the size of the totem. The larger the scale, the stronger the obtained ability. And that's why the target is more powerful than those 3 individuals. Agent Grandwater reported all his findings. There was excitement in his words. After listening to Agent Grandwater's report, the breathing on the other end of the phone noticeably became heavier. Very good. You did a great job, Grandwater. This discovery is very important to us. The voice on the other end of the phone was excited. While Nick Fury is still thinking about recruiting the target, we have already discovered the source of the target's ability. With this discovery, we can create a super-powered army with the same ability as the target. By then, we won't need to hide anymore. Every head of Hydra will emerge. Hail Hydra! Hail Hydra! Hail Hydra! At the same time. While Hydra undercover agent Grandwater was reporting to his superiors. On the other side, Shu Shu had already returned home and placed the AnyDoor on a wall inside the house. Just as he finished all this, an unexpected guest rang the doorbell. Shu Shu opened the door and found that the visitor was Jin Bing, whom he hadn't seen for a few days, accompanied by a polite glasses-wearing man. It seemed like Jin Bing's lawyer or some kind of assistant. Each of them was carrying a suitcase. They didn't bring any subordinates with them. Master, I've come to deliver. Seeing Shu Shu, Jin Bing quickly lowered his head. This underground king presented himself in an extremely humble manner. Come in. Shu Shu stepped aside to let them in. Once inside the house, Jin Bing and the glasses-wearing man immediately found a place to put down their suitcases. Jin Bing even carefully arranged them, afraid of them being placed crookedly. Master, here is 10 million US dollars, plus some small jewelry. Jin Bing said. He took out a property certificate from his pocket. Also, I heard that you were renting this house, so I took the liberty of buying it for you. Permanent ownership, you don't have to worry about property tax, I will pay it for you every year. While speaking, Jin Bing quietly observed Shu Shu's expression. Seeing that Shu Shu did not show any displeasure, he carefully placed the property certificate on the table. Shu Shu remained silent for a moment before suddenly speaking. What do you mean by giving me 10 million when we agreed on 1 million per month? Are you expecting me to do something for you? It's definitely not like that. These extras are just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept them with confidence. Jin Bing forced a smile. He had already seen some footage of the second New York battle. While others didn't know who the demon hunter that displayed great power in the battle was, he knew very well. To be able to survive in the perilous Marvel world for so long and reach such a high position. Jin Bing was well aware of who he could offend and who he couldn't. It's impressive, Jin Bing, you are truly adaptable. Let me tell you the truth, the reason I didn't kill you earlier was because I thought you still had some use. But now, Shu Shu paused. He didn't kill Jin Bing earlier because he thought that when he needed to summon demons in the future, he might need some shady sacrifices. This underground king might be able to help, but now, Shu didn't need a summoning ritual to summon demons at all. Naturally, he didn't need to find any sacrifices. Seeing that Shu meant that he was no longer useful, Jin Bing's face instantly changed. Wesley, could you step outside for a moment? Jin Bing dismissed his assistant by his side, then knelt down with a thud. Boss, there were too many people outside just now, so let me kowtow to you now. Shu found it somewhat amusing. This fat guy. You could say he had some shame, but he still knelt down. But you could also say he had no shame, as he knew to dismiss his subordinates in advance before kneeling down. Now I understand how you made it to where you are today. Shu thought of what Jin Bing said back in the warehouse. Do you think I made it to where I am today by relying on what? Now Shu knew the answer. He relied on one word. Patience. Sir, as long as you spare me, I will be your man from now on. I will do whatever you ask, and I will never go against your wishes. Jin Bing knocked his big head on the ground. His massive body made Shu feel like a mountain of flesh kneeling in front of him. Looking at Jin Bing kneeling in front of him, Shu found it somewhat amusing. He never intended to deal with this guy in the first place. It was his own misfortune that he stumbled upon him. Alright, get up. I'm not interested in your business. If you really want to do things for me, just get a card and regularly send me money. Shu didn't want to have too much contact with Jin Bing, especially with the businesses he was running. Everyone is an adult. Keep a distance and maintain good economic relations. It's better for everyone. Oh, by the way, help me find 2 cleaners. Shu looked at the slightly messy house around him. With this place, plus the New York holy place, he now had 2 fixed residences. He couldn't clean them all by himself. The next day, looking at the 2 cleaners that Jin Bing had found for himself, Shu seriously suspected that this fat guy had misunderstood his meaning. Because these 2 cleaners, one is called Erika Nachis, a former hand-in-hand killer. The other is called Felicia Hade, also known as Black Cat, a famous super thief. Both of them are not to be trifled with. The only thing they have in common is that both women are very attractive. Especially Felicia Hade, this super thief was once ranked 27th among the most attractive women in comic history, even higher than Black Widow. Now, I don't know what means Jin Bing used. He actually made these 2 people willingly come to work as cleaners. Master, the house has been cleaned. Is there anywhere else that needs cleaning? The Black Cat, dressed as a maid, walked over. Every smile and frown was extremely charming. Especially when asking if there was anywhere else to clean, her gaze was fixed on Shu. Yes, Shu knew that Felicia was doing it on purpose. Because Erika, who was standing beside her, was much more normal. This female killer was not dressed as a maid or anything. Apart from doing her job, she just stayed quietly by herself. She truly lived up to the saying, actions speak louder than words. As for the Black Cat, you like cleaning, don't you? Follow me. Shu led the Black Cat to the front of the Anywhere door. The image on the door was none other than the scene from the holy place in New York. The Black Cat and Felicia had actually noticed this unique door a long time ago. But because of Jin Bing's warning before they came, the 2 of them didn't dare to touch it without permission. Let's go. Shu didn't mind. After all, there was nothing to hide. Pushing open the door, the 2 of them arrived in the lobby of the holy place in New York. Every piece of glass and every tile inside must be cleaned. And don't touch anything in the display cases. Otherwise, you might turn into some random thing. Don't come crying to me then. Shu threw the shocked Black Cat into the lobby and gave her a small warning. But this statement wasn't entirely a threat, because there were indeed some cursed trinkets in the lobby. If an ordinary person touched them, they would really turn into a cat or a dog. Oh. The Black Cat nodded in confusion. She was still shocked that she had crossed dozens of kilometers in the blink of an eye and arrived in another place. When she snapped back to reality, she found that Shu was no longer by her side. She was the only one standing in the lobby with a broom and dustpan. Surrounding her were a pile of eerie masks, statues, and some bone ornaments that she didn't know what they were for. So this is the world of the magician? Could it be haunted? The Black Cat cautiously began to move. Perhaps due to professional habits, her stealthy movements resembled those of a thief. When she approached one of the glass display cases, thud, suddenly, a faint sound came from inside. Ah! The Black Cat was startled, but when she turned around, all she saw was a red cape hanging in the glass case. There's no hanger or rope. How is this thing hanging? Curiously, The black cat approached the display case, her beautiful eyes almost pressed against the glass, her eyelashes fluttering up and down. Just then, one corner of the floating cape suddenly curled up, like a fist. Taking advantage of the black cat's unpreparedness, it quickly knocked on the glass display case. Ah 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 ah. There's a ghost. The sound of a piercing scream immediately echoed in the hall. On the other side, Shu Shu, who had come alone to the interior of the holy place, also heard the horrifying screams coming from behind, but paid no attention. I didn't expect that cloak to be quite interesting. A smirk appeared on Shu Shu's lips. He had already closed both the portal and the door to the holy place. As an ordinary person, even if the black cat screamed her lungs out, there was no way for her to leave. Just clean up here honestly. Naturally, Shu Shu had to give the black cat, who dared to provoke him, a little taste of suffering. He entered the interior of the holy place. First, Shu Shu glanced at the core of the holy place. This huge sphere, like a globe, was rotating slowly and calmly as usual. The dots of light on it also confirmed that nothing had happened today. Seeing this, Shu Shu walked into a room on the left. Inside was an independent space created based on a mirrored space, completely separate from the real world. It was a place specifically for magicians who guarded the holy place to practice. Upon entering, apart from a flat ground in the middle, there were mirror fragments of the real world everywhere. It looked like walls made up of a pile of broken glass. The fragments on the walls constantly displayed scenes from the outside world. For example, one of the fragments showed the black cat running around in panic. And another fragment, from a different angle, showed what was under the black catwoman's skirt. Cough, cough. This place is quite interesting. After a light cough, Shu Shu withdrew his gaze. In short, from here, without leaving the house, one could observe everything inside and outside the holy place. In addition, another great advantage was safety. As an independent space created by a mirrored space, even if everything inside was turned upside down, it would not have the slightest impact on the real world. Isn't this much better than the Makalu Peak? Shu Shu sneered. Then he took out a small notebook from his spatial belt. The shadow demon has already been summoned. The demons in the thin prison have also put me on their blacklist. Shu Shu flipped through the ancient book given to him by the Ancient One, searching for new clients. Compared to the previous style of summoning anyone like a headless fly, Shu Shu was now clearly more cautious. He also had a set of criteria for choosing clients. They had to be strong, at the very least, they had to be level sub-godfather like Belast. They also had to be reasonable. They couldn't be summoned and then go on a killing spree, ignoring others' words. Lastly, and most importantly, they had to be interested in at least one thing on Shu Shu's body. Whether it was the soul or something else, after all, you couldn't make a deal with a demon who had no desires or demands. Demons from hell are still the best. They are all so particular, getting a fiend's covenant, and they can't go against it themselves. Shu Shu thought. Among all the demons judged by the system, the idiots from hell were probably the easiest to deceive. Unfortunately, he had been blacklisted by them. Wait. Why did I forget about the other hells? Shu Shu suddenly remembered the Book of Hell, he had read in the Kamar Taj library. It mentioned more than one hell. In addition to Belast's thin prison, there was also Lucifer's hell, Mephisto's hell, Hades' hell, and even Thor's sister, Hela's underworld. It seemed to be an independent dimension of hell. According to the records in the Book of Hell, there used to be no such chaotic mess of hells, only one hell. Back then, hell was a whole, a complete dimension. But later, for unknown reasons, the complete dimension of hell shattered, forming smaller dimensions. Which are the hells that these hell lords later occupied? Therefore, although they are also called lords, these hell lords are completely different from true dimensional lords. One might not even be a level godfather, while the other completely surpasses the heavenly father, with power reaching the level of a single universe, or even a multi-universe. The main reason for all this is the different control over dimensions. Wait. If what the Ancient One said about the dimensional barrier is true, then if I were to obtain all the power of these hell dimensions, wouldn't I be able to piece together the fragmented hell dimensions into the original large dimension? Shu Shu suddenly had a bold imagination, according to the Ancient One's words. As long as I obtain the energy of a certain world, it will weaken the dimensional barrier of that world and the world I am in. So if I stay in one of these hells, and obtain the power of the other hells, Won't I be able to break the barriers between them and achieve a state of mutual integration? Forget it, I'm getting off track. Let's just summon a Hell Lord randomly for now. Shu laughed at himself. Then, he quickly confirmed the list of people in his mind: Lucifer, Mephisto, Hades, Gila. Alright, it's your turn. I summon you, Gila. As soon as Shu finished speaking, he activated the heavenly edict in his mouth. In the originally empty mirror space, a crack suddenly appeared. Inside, a green light shimmered. Shu widened his eyes and stared at the other side of the crack. Soon, a graceful figure slowly walked out of the darkness and stopped at the crack. Her clothes were tattered, revealing a large expanse of skin. Gila? Shu asked. Gila didn't answer. She just stood silently at the crack, seemingly observing Shu. Suddenly, Gila spoke. Is Odin dead? Shu was taken aback by the question. Wow, she really is Odin's daughter, showing filial piety as soon as she opens her mouth. As far as I know, he shouldn't be dead, Shu replied. But before he could finish speaking, Gila, who had been standing at the edge of the crack, suddenly walked inside without looking back. The crack gradually closed. Don't call me if he's not dead. Snap. The crack closed completely, leaving Shu standing there with wide eyes. What the hell? Shu rolled his eyes. Helplessly, he had to choose the next target. I summon Lucifer. Boom, as if a thunderous roar. But then, nothing happened. Failed again? Shu frowned. Could it be that those demons in the thin prison have been spreading rumors about me everywhere, even to other hells? Just as Shu was about to summon the next Hell Lord. Suddenly, a warm voice, like the morning sun, sounded. Human, you're looking for me? Shu was startled. He turned around suddenly and only then did he notice someone behind him. At some point, a handsome blonde man had appeared. Even though Shu was a man himself, he couldn't help but admit that this guy was indeed very handsome. There was nothing to criticize about him. In the Book of Hell, isn't it said that Lucifer is a red demon with horns on his head? How? Shu muttered in his heart. There was an illustration of Lucifer in the Book of Hell. But the demon Lucifer in that illustration had nothing to do with the man in front of him. Are you Lucifer? Shu asked uncertainly. Haha, you summoned me here, and you still need to ask my name? The blonde man smiled slightly. Then he started walking around in this limited mirrored space. Interesting. A fascinating world. As Lucifer walked, he muttered to himself, seemingly commenting on something. But gradually, terrifying names came out of his mouth. Eternity, Annihilation, Death, Infinity, Galactus. Infinite Gems. Court of Life. This is truly impressive. Lucifer stopped in his tracks, and his gaze returned to Shu. And Shu was already stunned. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Which world the hell was this Lucifer from? Shu could guarantee that this was absolutely not the one recorded in the Book of Hell. Thank you for inviting me to visit this world. Let me introduce myself. I am Lucifer Morningstar. As Lucifer spoke, a warm smile remained on his face. As if the warm sunlight of early morning. After listening to Lucifer's self-introduction, Shu silently reached into his pocket and took out a stack of cards. Don't worry, I will leave on my own, otherwise that old guy god. Sigh. Lucifer seemed to see through Shu's little movement, but he didn't mind. After sighing, he continued, I have a basic understanding of the purpose of your invitation, and I regret to inform you. I have nothing to trade with you, but to thank you for inviting me, I can give you a small gift for free. After saying that, Lucifer lightly pointed. A golden energy fell into Shu's body. Ding. Abnormal energy detected. The system has successfully purified it for you. Oh? It seems you have some abilities that I don't know about, huh? Lucifer seemed to have discovered something. He tilted his head slightly and took another look at Shu. Then he explained, this is my Morningstar power. Also known as the will of God, although I don't really like that name. What I've given you is enough to make you immortal. Definitely, you can also give up your long life and use it to resurrect some deceased loved ones and friends. In any case, the choice is yours. After finishing his words, Lucifer began to fade away slowly. As if being erased bit by an eraser. You're Shu, right? I look forward to meeting again in the future. With the completion of the last sentence, Lucifer Morningstar completely disappeared from this independent space. System, did he really leave? It wasn't until Lucifer disappeared for a long time that Shu Shu finally took action. His first action was to inquire about the system in his mind. Did he really leave? No demons detected. The system's answer relieved Shu Shu. Then, a bunch of questions came. System. Why did I call Lucifer? Why did I call this name and summon it from the DC universe? That's right, the one Shu Shu just summoned. It was Lucifer from the neighboring DC universe. Lucifer Morningstar. You should know that this big shot in the DC universe is second only to the existence of the Supreme God, God. In Marvel, he is basically below the one above all. On the level of the Life Tribunal or the 5 great gods of creation. Because the host did not specify which Lucifer to summon, a random summoning event occurred. The system's meaning is simple. With so many Lucifers, and you didn't make it clear which one to find, then it can only be random. How would I know that you can summon demons from other worldviews? Shu Shu said angrily. He thought that Ko Xian Tian Xian could only summon demons from the Marvel world. Who could have thought that with just one sentence, he would actually summon Lucifer from the neighboring DC universe? System. You're really awesome. Fortunately, the Lucifer that came is a good-tempered one, otherwise, I can't even imagine. You have this ability. Why the F*K didn't you say it earlier? The host did not inquire. Don't be angry, don't be angry. No one will replace you if you get angry. Shu Shu patted his chest and calmed down a bit. Although there was a bit of an unexpected accident. But the result of this summoning, for now, it seems good. The power of the Morningstar that can resurrect the dead. Shu Shu spread out his palm, and a slender golden energy immediately appeared in his palm. Like a golden thread, it contains endless vitality. According to Lucifer's meaning, if this energy is not used and stays in the body, Shu Shu can live forever. If chosen to be consumed, this energy can also resurrect the dead. It's worthy of being the ultimate big shot from another world. The shot is indeed generous. Shu Shu retracted the power of the Morningstar into his body. This thing can be used on others, naturally, it can be kept for oneself. It's like having an extra life. After experiencing this unexpected incident, Shu Shu no longer had the intention to continue summoning. After all, if he accidentally summoned some random people, who knows what kind of mess would be brought over. I have to admit, this system is really unreasonable. Whether it's exorcism or summoning, it's F*King unreasonable. It seems that in the future, if I want to summon someone, not only do I have to specify the name, but I also have to write down their address. Shu Shu shook his head. He walked out of the independent mirror space. Meow meow meow. As soon as he came out, a very beautiful white cloth cat rushed over eagerly. It meowed at Shu Shu. Shu Shu was stunned. He hadn't heard that there was a cat in the holy place in New York. Felicity? Meow meow, it's really you? Ha ha ha. Didn't I tell you not to touch things randomly? Seeing the cloth cat nodding, Shu Shu laughed and then mockingly said. After laughing, he picked up the cloth cat. Meow 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 meow. The cloth cat twisted its body, but it couldn't escape Shu Shu's clutches. Oh, why do I feel that you look much better now than before? Or you can keep it this way. When the cat is doing well, I will give you dried fish to eat every day, Shu Shu said. The ragdoll cat's eyes were already filled with tears. Its pure white body trembled, clearly frightened by Shu Shu's words. All right, I won't tease you anymore, I will figure out a way. Shu Shu's words were not finished. Suddenly, a beam of light lit up from the core of the holy place, which resembled a globe. At the same time, a familiar energy fluctuation emanated from the core of the holy place. Shadow demon? Shu Shu frowned. He immediately put down the ragdoll cat. He focused his gaze on the light that appeared on the core of the holy place. There were several beams of light, distributed in different locations on Earth. Some were close to New York, while others were in Europe, and some were even on the other side of the Earth. Why at the same time? Why are there so many places, summoning shadow demons simultaneously? Shu Shu was very familiar with the energy fluctuations transmitted by the core of the holy place. Because that was the same energy fluctuation when he summoned the shadow demon in the past. And now, the same energy reaction appeared in various parts of the world. It meant that someone was conducting the ritual to summon shadow demons in these places at the same time, and they succeeded. Never mind, I will know when I go and see. Shu Shu finished speaking. A circle of darkness immediately appeared under his feet. The next second, he disappeared from the spot. Meow. Looking at Shu Shu's disappearing figure, Felicia, who had turned into a ragdoll cat, widened her eyes. Meow meow meow? Big brother, did you forget something? On the road from New York to Washington, Nick Fury was driving a black vehicle recklessly on the road. Dozens of police cars behind him were shooting at him like crazy. There was even a helicopter above his head. It was also continuously firing at the vehicle driven by Nick Fury. The bulletproof shell of the vehicle is at 70%, 60%, 50%. Listening to the warning sound from the vehicle's AI, Nick Fury's face darkened. Activate vehicle's flight mode malfunction. Activate vehicle's countermeasures. Weapon module damaged. Then activate autopilot. Autopilot malfunction. Contact Hill agent. And don't tell me the communication module is also broken. Nick Fury roared. At this moment, he wished he could respond to the vehicle's engineer with 10,000 mother F *CKERS. Fortunately, this time, the vehicle's AI did not reply with malfunction or damaged. Instead, it successfully contacted Hill. Director? What just happened? We lost contact with the ground headquarters. As soon as the communication was connected, Hill's puzzled voice came from inside. Hill, listen to me, evacuate the aircraft carrier. SHIELD has been infiltrated by Hydra. Alexander Pierce is a traitor. I just discovered their conspiracy. I am being chased by them. What? I can't hear you clearly, Director. We are under attack by an unknown armed group. There are gunshots on the bridge. We are resisting. Nick Fury heard it. Suddenly, intense gunfire came from Hill's side. Obviously, the infiltrated Hydra undercover agents had launched an attack on the aircraft carrier where Hill was located. Hill? Respond quickly, Hill! Nick Fury anxiously shouted. But in the communication system, only increasingly intense gunfire could be heard. Damn it! Nick Fury hung up the phone, but when he looked up, he saw a person standing in front of the road, appearing out of nowhere. Alexander Pierce, former SHIELD director. Also a close friend and mentor to Nick Fury. It can be said that Nick Fury was able to become the SHIELD director because of Pierce's support behind the scenes. But now, this aging, near-retirement old agent stands alone in front of Nick Fury's vehicle, with open arms, as if embracing an old friend, welcoming the approach of Nick Fury's vehicle. Buzz! Nick Fury steps on the gas pedal. Without hesitation, he accelerates and crashes into Pierce. Just now, he not only discovered Pierce's true identity, a high-ranking member of Hydra, but also unexpectedly exposed their conspiracy, obtaining abilities from an unknown evil god through human sacrifices. I'm sorry, Nick Fury, you could have seen a better world. A world ruled by Hydra, without oppression, without chaos. Watching the rapidly approaching vehicle, Alexander Pierce remains calm, and even takes a few steps forward. As he walks, he paints a picture of a world ruled by Hydra. Until the vehicle approaches, Alexander Pierce casually raises one hand. In an instant, the shadows of surrounding objects quickly converge, forming a pitch-black spear in the hands of Alexander Pierce. Fury, you don't understand at all how powerful we have become. Alexander Pierce says. He throws the spear. The supposedly bulletproof car of Nick Fury is pierced by the spear, completely penetrated. The spear slants and pierces from the front windshield to the vehicle chassis, directly pinning Nick Fury's vehicle to the ground. Boom! The speeding vehicle instantly stops. The strong inertia causes Nick Fury's head to heavily hit the dashboard. He almost passes out. Creak! Alexander Pierce approaches. He unlocks the car door with his bare hands and pulls Nick Fury out, throwing him on the ground. See, this is the power I now possess, from the great god of shadows. Alexander Pierce spreads his arms, and laughs recklessly. It is a smile that has been suppressed for a long time and is finally released. After laughing, he looks down at Nick Fury. Fury, the rise of Hydra is unstoppable. Join us. What is the price then, Pierce? That god. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Nick Fury spits out blood, understanding this better than anyone. The price? Just a trivial amount of blood, plus one person's life. Hearing Nick Fury's words, Alexander Pierce shakes his head disdainfully. The mercy of the god of shadows is far beyond their imagination. To bestow such great power, all it takes is to kill one person. This deal is really too cost-effective. Fury, the mercy of the god of shadows is something you and I cannot fathom. Seeing that Nick Fury is unwilling to join, Alexander Pierce prepares to take action. Another spear made of shadows appears in his hand. Don't worry, Fury, your funeral will be grand. Just as the spear is about to fall, boom, a critical moment. A beam of particles fell from the sky, sending Pierce flying. Immediately after, Tony Stark landed with a bang. The palm cannon was aimed at Pierce. I adjusted the intensity of the repulsor beam. Now, this shot is enough to vaporize half of your body. So I advise you not to move. After the defeat in the previous war, Tony Stark had been working day and night on developing new armor. He upgraded the weapon system of the armor completely. Stark? Nick Fury couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that Tony Stark came to save him. JARVIS received the alarm from your vehicle's AI. By the way, I am the vehicle engineer you were about to scold. Tony half-jokingly said. In reality, he only provided some technical guidance. Ah. Just as Tony Stark made his appearance, a sigh suddenly came from the surroundings, and Chu Shu walked out from the shadows. Chu Shu? Nick Fury's one eye widened in disbelief. How did so many people suddenly appear? Chu Shu, when did you arrive? Tony Stark was also surprised. JARVIS didn't detect the presence of anyone else on the scene. I've been here for a while. I was originally planning to come out after that bastard died. I didn't expect to save you. Good people don't live long, causing trouble for thousands of years. Chu Shu shrugged indifferently. Nick Fury. How did he become the troublemaker? He is the one from Hydra. Nick Fury pointed to Alexander Pierce next to him, indicating that he was the bad guy, and he was the good bastard. Chu Shu definitely wouldn't pay attention to Nick Fury's explanation. After all, his purpose for coming here was not to resolve the internal conflicts of S.H.I.E.L.D. What did you just say? The Shadow God asked you to help him kill someone. Chu Shu walked to Alexander Pierce's side. Just like the previous few Shadow Sect disciples, the dark energy in this guy's body was also chaotic. Simply put, he was just a piece of trash. Let me guess, the person you were supposed to kill. Could it be me? Chu Shu laughed. Alexander Pierce responded to Chu Shu's guess with silence. As part of the deal with the Shadow God, the order to kill Chu Shu at all costs had already been given to HYDRA's various branch bases. Even if you kill me today, it won't change the rise of Hydra. Cut off one head, and two will grow in its place. Facing the current situation, Pierce knew he couldn't escape, but his attitude remained arrogant. And you? He looked at Chu Shu. The Shadow God has given instructions. The pursuit of you will never end, no matter where you run. Hydra will follow you like a shadow. As a long-standing agent in a high position, Alexander Pierce spoke with great momentum. But Chu Shu only responded with a look of contempt. I really don't understand if you guys are smart or stupid. If the so-called Shadow God in your mouths is really powerful, why doesn't it come and kill me itself? Chu Shu mocked Pierce. You might as well believe that I am Qin Shi Huang, and I can make you the Grand General of the state. Idiot. After cursing, Chu Shu punched Pierce's head, causing it to explode. That's right, just one punch and it exploded. With Pierce's strength, he couldn't even see how Chu Shu made his move. His own head was like a watermelon, smashed by a punch. Countless red and white things mixed with a large amount of shattered skull. They scattered towards the back like a goddess scattering flowers. Such a weak person can push you to a dead end? Chu Shu turned around and mocked Nick Fury. And at the same time he spoke. A black energy emerged from Pierce's fallen body, like a lost dog, wandering around. Chu Shu reached out and touched it. This power was immediately absorbed into his body. Ding! Abnormal energy detected. The exorcism system has successfully purified it for you. Accompanied by the system prompt, this energy instantly became extremely pure, and then quickly merged into Chu Shu's shadow energy. Can it be like this? Chu Shu was very surprised. It was the first time he knew that he could obtain abilities in this way. By killing or other forced means, forcibly plundering the power that was of the same origin as his own. Just like big fish eating small fish. If I had known, I wouldn't have given those shadow demon disciples to Phil Coulson. Chu Shu shrugged. Although Pierce's energy was a bit pitiful after being purified, it was almost like a few drops of water to Chu Shu, dripping into a river. But even a mosquito's leg is meat. Wait. It seems like I know how to obtain energy after being blacklisted. Chu Shu suddenly brightened. He had been blacklisted, he could let others take out loans. He only needed to use energy absorption borrowed from others. This way, he could repeatedly take advantage of the same demon. Well done, Hydra. Thinking of this, Chu Shu suddenly had a good impression of Hydra. summoning shadow demons everywhere. In the end, didn't it all benefit himself? Hey, you! Tell me the locations of all your Hydra bases. Chu Shu turned to Nick Fury. Nick Fury wanted to say, I'm a SHIELD director, how would I know the locations of Hydra bases? But then he thought, it seemed like he did know some. He took out a phone from the deceased Pierce, opened the map, and marked several locations based on his memory alone. These bases were established when Pierce was the SHIELD director. The confidentiality level is very high, even I don't have permission to visit. Chu Shu took a look after taking the phone. He found the locations marked by Nick Fury. Sure enough, they were almost identical to the highlighted spots on the core of the holy place. The only difference was that the core of the holy place only had a rough location, while Nick Fury's marks were precise to specific coordinates. Chu Shu, join us on this mission. Eliminating Hydra is also within the scope of our Avengers mission. Tony Stark hurriedly approached as Chu Shu was about to leave. He still couldn't forget, wanting to recruit Chu Shu into the Avengers. Well, the last person who wanted to recruit me ended up like this. Chu Shu pointed to Nick Fury next to him. After saying that, he opened a portal without looking back and left, leaving Tony Stark and Nick Fury behind. Staring at each other in confusion, they stood still. Suddenly, Tony Stark asks, how did you recruit him? Seduction? Nick Fury shook his head, it was sincerity. Upon hearing this response, Tony Stark choked for a moment, then sighed slowly. Sincerity. Indeed, it couldn't put food on the table. After realizing this, Tony silently called his AI butler. Jarvis, help me draft a stock transfer agreement. I have a use for it. Sokovia. Hydra branch. In this highly secretive underground base. On one floor, there were several small rooms, each less than 15 square meters in size. These rooms held imprisoned children, some of which were already empty. Wanda and Pietro, this pair of siblings, were the oldest among this group of children. But they had just come of age. Little Wiccan was taken away by them and hasn't returned. Pietro leaned his body against the bulletproof glass of the small room, his gaze filled with worry. Since yesterday, children had been taken away one by one, but none had returned. The previous experiments were nothing more than drawing blood or conducting painful tests. Although it was painful, at least they were still alive. But now, no one knew what the abducted children had experienced. Wanda, what should we do? Pietro looked at Wanda in the adjacent room. They were siblings, with Pietro being born a few minutes earlier, but Wanda always insisted that she was the older sister. Upon hearing her brother Pietro's question, Wanda shook her head in confusion. She and Pietro joined Hydra for revenge, to seek revenge against that arms dealer, Tony Stark. Initially, Hydra promised to grant them extraordinary powers. But over this past year, they only received one torment and suffering after another. No, we can't just sit and wait, we must find a way. Before Wanda could finish speaking, a man wearing a monocle arrived on this floor. Wanda Maximoff, Pietro Maximoff, Charlie Wells, Anthony Schelliger. The death list was being read out again. Unfortunately, this time, both Wanda and Pietro were on the list. No. Let go of me, I want to go home, I miss my mom. Ignoring the children's cries, a team of Hydra soldiers opened the rooms and took away each child on the list. Wanda and Pietro didn't struggle, obediently following along. The group quickly arrived at their destination. But this time, the children realized that they were not brought to a laboratory. There were no operating tables, no doctors in white coats. Only a room filled with a strong smell of blood. From the floor to the walls, it was covered in twisted and eerie red patterns. From the pungent smell of blood, it was not difficult to deduce that the paint used for those patterns was human blood. Let's begin. Baron Strucker, wearing a monocle, gave the order. The surrounding Hydra soldiers immediately pinned the children to the ground, bringing out knives and buckets for collecting blood. Unlike simple blood draws, what they were about to do was human sacrifice. Pietro. Wanda watched as her brother was pinned to the ground by the soldiers. Just like slaughtering a pig in a slaughterhouse, a knife was pressed against his neck. In a state of shock and panic, a red glow gradually appeared in Wanda's eyes. Boom! Before Wanda could react, a violent explosion came from above the base. What's happening? Baron Strucker grabbed a soldier next to him and axe. The soldier also looked confused, but soon, the news came down. The base has been invaded. Who are the invaders? SHIELD, are the Avengers? Baron Strucker grabbed the soldier delivering the message and axe. Neither. The soldier shook his head. Sir, it's the person we want to kill. Boom. The heavy door was smashed open by Chu Shu, punch by punch. Sokovia's base was transformed from a nuclear shelter during the Cold War. The entrance door could withstand the first round of impact during a nuclear explosion. But it couldn't stop Chu Shu's brute force. Although Chu Shu could easily open a portal and reach the other side of the door. Or use shadow energy to blend into the shadows and silently enter the base. But, I just love brute force. Chu Shu crashed through the door. Looking at the Hydra soldiers coming towards him, he grinned. In a trance, the Hydra soldiers felt that the person in front of them was not a human, but a terrifying devil, a real demon, more terrifying than the one that appeared during the Second Battle of New York. Notify the Shadow Warriors. The attacker is Chu Shu. It's Chu Shu. The Hydra soldiers shouted while shooting frantically. They were using not ordinary firearms, but energy weapons that fired blue lasers. With tremendous power, wherever the laser hit, whether it was concrete or metal, it would melt a large hole. But it still couldn't break through Chu Shu's body, the flame barrier formed by demonic power. You guys have a good sense of humor. Why don't you say the attacker is a droplet? After Chu Shu finished speaking, he turned into a shadow and rushed forward. His speed was so fast that these Hydra soldiers had no reaction at all. 1 second, they were still looking around, trying to find Chu Shu's position. The next second, they felt darkness in front of them, intense pain engulfing their bodies, and then lost consciousness. Plop, plop, in just a moment, the ground was covered with bodies. Almost none of them were intact. Either their heads exploded like watermelons, or their arms and legs were torn off, separated from their bodies. The strong smell of blood, more pungent than the secret chamber they used to summon shadow demons. He's here, quick, summon the Shadow Warriors to kill him. Just as Chu Shu entered the base, he heard several shouts. Then, he saw several familiar shadow soldiers attacking him. Playing with summoning, huh? Chu Shu stopped. With a thought, a vast amount of shadow energy burst out, forming a dark domain, instantly enveloping the entire Hydra base. Immediately after, one shadow soldier after another walked out of the shadows. They were densely packed. They occupied almost every corner of the Hydra base. And not only were these shadow soldiers numerous, but their individual strength was also more than 100 times stronger than the summoned ones on the other side. Holy shit! Looking at the densely packed shadow soldiers around him, the Hydra soldiers only had time to curse, and then one by one, they were chopped into minced meat. The same scene also appeared on several other floors of the base. Every floor, even every room, had the same scene. The entire Sokovia base was almost instantly empty. Only Wanda and the others in the sacrifice room, as well as the imprisoned children, remained. Oh, and Baron Strucker. Chu Shu spared his life on purpose. But now he had 2 shadow soldiers holding a knife to his neck, not daring to move. Because just now, he watched his subordinates next to him. In just 2 seconds, they were chopped into a pile of minced meat. Is that all? Truly a stingy person. Damn, so cheap. Suddenly, Chu Shu appeared in the sacrifice room, muttering and cursing. He held a black energy in his palm, while cursing. He absorbed the energy into his body. It's you. Strucker turned his head to look at Chu Shu. Inside Hydra, there was no one who didn't know Chu Shu, the shadow god who was explicitly targeted for death. I said it was a wrong decision. They shouldn't have put all their eggs in one basket, but no one listened to me. Baron Strucker muttered to himself. Chu Shu didn't know what this guy was saying, and he didn't care. Go. Complete the summoning ritual. Chu Shu gave the order. The surrounding shadow soldiers immediately dispersed. They collected blood from nearby Hydra soldiers' corpses, then returned to the sacrifice room to complete the summoning ritual. Wanda, Pietro, and the other children were too scared to move. Only when they realized that the shadow soldiers wouldn't harm them did Wanda gather the courage to speak. Hello. Thank you for saving us. No problem, just a small favor. Chu Shu waved his hand and turned to look at the red-haired girl who had stepped forward. She's quite attractive. Surprised, Chu Shu casually asks, "What's your name, little sister?" Wanda Maximoff. What? Chu Shu suddenly turned his head. He carefully observed Wanda and the silver-haired boy next to her. And him? He's my brother, Pietro Maximoff. Wanda introduced. Wait here, I'll open a door. After confirming that this was the future Scarlet Witch, Chu Shu quickly opened a flame portal using demonic power. Don't worry, Although it looks scary, it's just a portal, it won't burn you. The other side of the door is safe. Wait for a while after you go over, I'll come after finishing some small matters. A group of children hesitated as they looked at the burning flame portal. In the end, it was Wanda who stepped in first. After about 2 seconds, Wanda walked out of the flame portal again. Everyone, come in quickly. This uncle didn't deceive us. Seeing Wanda return, the other children followed and entered the portal. They were all terrified by Hydra's torture and were afraid of leaving the wolf's den only to enter the tiger's lair. Shu had no complaints about this. Being cautious was a good thing. After all, blindly trusting a stranger. That would be foolish. But, was it a bit too much to call me uncle? The uncle that Wanda just called hurt Shu's feelings a bit. Wanda was now around 17 or 18 years old, the most youthful and beautiful time for a girl. But he was only 2 or 3 years older than her. As for calling him uncle, that's a bit much, isn't it?